Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sudowrite 101. Tabby was supposed to lead this class. Something came up at the last minute, so she cannot teach these sessions this week. So I am taking over for her. And I have the Luma calendar pulled up so y'all can see in case you aren't aware. Today is this 101, tomorrow the 201, and the day after that, the 301. Today, my focus will be on introducing y'all to Sudowrite and some of its features. We tend to heavily focus on Story Bible in a lot of the classes. I wanted to take some time and devote this session to the other features. We will dive into Story Bible towards the end of the class. And then in the 201 and 301, we will heavily be in Story Bible. Make sure you register for that if you haven't already. I'll copy the link for y'all. What do y'all think about my new cursor? People said they needed an easier time to see where we were pointing and clicking. I did what I could. I am going to link this document to y'all. Like I said, we are going to focus on some other features first. We're going to focus heavily on First Draft and Brainstorm, and then we will jump into Story Bible. And we'll do a short story inside Story Bible. And then tomorrow's 201 session, we'll kind of stick mostly within Story Bible and do a new story and hang out there for the 301 as well. I'm going to copy this link to this document. It has a link to our Notion that I did. This is a bunch of tips and everything you can go through. Lots of stuff in here. Don't get overwhelmed trying to go through everything. This is a document I'm going to be discontinuing because I have a new one in the works. Please save this if you don't have it already. You'll see I do have my Sudowrite book here. This is a book I published. It wasn't something I just slapped together to try to make money, y'all. I put all of the knowledge I had at the time into creating this book. It's a lot of tips and things for how to use Sudowrite, how I use it, how other people use it. It is on Kindle Unlimited if you have that. I also have some links down here for my YouTube channel. So if you're brand new, which I know a few of you are, there is this How to Use Sudowrite video playlist. And if you click that, you will see that all of these blue and pink boxes, once you get down here, this is recorded classes, but these blue and pink boxes are on the short side, and they're just going over individual features just to kind of help y'all. I know these 101s can be overwhelming. Anybody that has attended a lot of them can testify to that. We try to cram a bunch of knowledge. I don't think that's the way for us to continue doing this. So please, if y'all need help with the basics, of course, always feel free to ask here in this class, but also know that there is this video playlist for you to reference. So you can see all the setting things and how to create a project. You can go focus on Brainstorm, whatever you want to do, these short videos that break down each feature. And there is a more advanced series, the 4-Day Write With Me series. So if y'all are ready to dive into trying to create a workflow, I highly recommend that one. I have a couple of plugins. You're going to see me use them in this class, so I have them linked here as well. If you're a nonfiction writer and want some prompts, this little document is for you. Here is the link. Little housekeeping here. First of all, I love for my classes to be interactive. Please, if you have ideas, if you want me to try experiment with something, let me know. If you have a question, feel free to ask. If you don't want to talk, you can put it in chat. Tomas and Mana are here. They are some of our ambassadors and very experienced users. You'll probably see them answering a lot of your questions in chat. But please, by all means, feel free to unmute yourself and talk to me. I do ask that you mute yourself if you have background noise. If you have dogs barking, TV on, somebody comes into the room to talk to you, I promise they might be trying to keep it low, but it does get very distracting. So please mute yourself if you have some background noise. Alrighty, let's dive in. Again, in the videos, I go over all the different little settings and things that you can do right here. I don't think this is covered in the video because it was words at the time, so I just want to briefly go over it. This is showing you how many credits you have. You can buy more credits, and it'll pop up for that with you. And if you hover over it, it should show you when it expires or rollovers. I have the rollover plan, so I know mine's going to roll over. And it tells me the credit packs do not expire. Keep that in mind. And other little things for you to mess with right here. This show recent activity, this is new. As you start working through Sudowrite, you'll find you can check that to see how many credits you spent on something. All right, we are going to dive in. Any questions before we start using these features? Looks like it's good. I'm going to go with the document. Again, I linked it. This way y'all know exactly what I'm going to do, but I also wanted to make sure y'all had the prompts that I'm using so you can experiment with them as well and play around. First thing we're going to do is check out a recent plugin that I made called Short Story Outline. Now, don't let the name fool you. It's not meant to be an outline as far as down here in the outline box. You will still need to format it properly, but I will show you what it does. For this plugin, you really only need to type in a short story premise. It could be a paragraph, couple paragraphs, whatever. As a matter of fact, what do I have? I will see what the limits are on it real quick. Reads up to 500 words of highlighted text. And of course, it does read these boxes if you have it. Check the descriptions on plugins whenever you go to use one. We try to put this type of information in there just to let you know what model it uses and how to use the plugin efficiently. So 500 words of highlighted text for this one is the max. I'm going to rename this. And I'm just going to type it here. But again, it reads brain dump and genres. I could just fill those out, but it's easier just to do it right here. That could be as simple as if I tell it I want alien erotica. And no, don't worry, we're not going to work on that story. I just want to show y'all a couple of demonstrations with the plugin. Plugins are in this drop down. Anytime you create a plugin or add a plugin, that's what all of these are. The more plugins you create or add, the longer this list is going to be. That's why we've asked them to move these other features elsewhere so we can access them easier. I'm just going to click the short story outline and expand this so you can see what it does. Now, there are a couple of things I could do with it at this point. I could bring this into my brain dump or synopsis inside Story Bible, but I actually prefer, since it's a short story, to do this inside First Draft. But it's giving, a title. I told I want alien erotica. It's giving a title, the genre, some themes, all this, settings and characters, and it gives me the plot. And since I'm not actually going to write this story, I'm just doing it for demo purposes. I'm not going to edit anything. But if I did want to actually work on this story and edit things, I could insert it over here, make whatever changes I needed to make before proceeding to the next step. For the next one, I'm just going to take it all and I'm going to pop this into First Draft. Within Sudowrite, there are several ways to actually write. Again, I know we focus heavily on Story Bible. That's the popular one, but First Draft is another option. It's great for getting your story started, a chapter. We're also going to play around with the other things you can do in First Draft. And you can also do write, which is auto write and guided write up here. This is something we'll go into more later. But there are essentially 3 ways you can write inside Sudowrite. So if you're finding you don't like Story Bible, you don't like the workflow, or it's just not clicking for you, you don't want the AI to have that much control, use the auto write feature. I absolutely love it. And I'll show you how that works in a moment. Well, let's copy this output into First Draft. To use First Draft, I cannot have anything in my document. If I scroll down here, First Draft is towards the bottom. If I scroll down here, there is no First Draft in my list because there's something in the document. Create a new document. And now that the document is blank, I can scroll down and First Draft is right here. So all I'm going to do, no instructions or anything, I'm just copying that output from that plugin in here. And let's watch the sparkles. To insert that into the main writing area, I will show you that again just as soon as this is done. And thanks for the question because I can explain something else that happens with it.
What's happening with that cursor?
Which one, the sparkle one or the blue one?
Oh yeah, the sparkle one.
Isn't it diminished or something?
No, I saw it.
You- Oh, to me it's so diminished, but I love the sparkles of first draft. It's like my favorite thing. Okay, so all I did was input that wording and let's see how much it was. Oh, this is first draft. Won't be in this document. This gave us 372 words from inputting that short story outline plugin information in here. And it just kind of goes through the plot. So again, I could start working with this right here inside of the document area. Maybe I want to take this one, bring it into another document, or keep it right here and just start working with expanding this, rewriting it, adding in my descriptions, details. Or I could take all of this and copy it and put it in Brain Dump or Synopsis and start my story inside Story Bible. So lots of ways to use it. Now the question came up, how did I insert that outline into the writing area? This one right here. This was the card that the plugin outputted on. And at the bottom of it, I can copy or insert. I can also just do it manually, copy it this way, but copy and insert. Something to keep in mind, if you have things highlighted, I'm going to highlight this real quick. If I click insert, it's going to replace that highlight. So make sure you don't have anything highlighted if you don't want something to remove. Instead, put your cursor wherever you want the stuff inserted, whether it's at the end or in between paragraphs, wherever, and then click insert. Just keep that in mind. If it's highlighted and you click that insert button, it's going to get replaced. That's how you do that. All right, let's do this one. I'm in the mood for horror today. We'll do the plugin one more time. Again, I'm going to create a new document, blank, so I can use first draft. I'm sorry, not first draft, but so I can do the plugin here. This is all I'm telling it that I want. I'm going to run that plugin one more time. And then we'll play around with tweaking this output real quick. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I want to cover a lot of ground. Again, I want to go over first draft, brainstorm features, and go ahead and dive into Story Bible with a short story. Just waiting on this to finish. Are there any questions so far?
Everything seems to be up to date.
Thank you. I am just going to insert that. And again, you can see I have this highlighted. When I click insert, that's actually going to be replaced. Right, so now I have this. Again, I would go through and change anything. Small coastal town, late 1800s. I don't want that. Let's stick to a time period I know a little bit better. Late 2000s. I'm not going to heavily edit this. This isn't the story again that we're going to work on. This is for demo purposes. But just to kind of briefly make sure everything's kind of in line with 2000s versus 1800s. So Spirit of Captain Graves. I like that idea. And again, this plugin, I didn't give it much, but you could put up to 500 words for that highlight or fill up your brain dump for it to read from. It looks like everything's pretty much good for going into first draft. So again, I would make my edits here, make sure everything's the way I want it. Copy this, make that new document because it has to be blank for first draft. And just copy that output in here. Now let's say I wanted to make some changes, or maybe I wanted to give some style guidance. I could do that here. I could, tell it to write in, see if it listens. Write in first person, past tense. In first draft, you cannot, as soon as you press enter, it's going to go. Even shift enter doesn't work. If I do shift enter, it's going to just go. Keep that in mind. If you need to make some changes and the line thing bugs you, do it in your document area to make sure you have everything worded the way you want, and then paste that into first draft. Let me try it again. So it had a network error.
Is there a way to stop it from generating if you actually hit enter and make it go?
So there's no stop button, but you can do the force refresh up here. Let me copy all this.
Thank you.
Try to refresh. Again, that plugin, I'm giving it time to make sure I don't know if it's my network error or the LLMs. That plugin I just used is linked right here, the short story outline. And then I brought it into First Draft. And I know First Draft is under this plugins menu. First Draft is not a plugin, y'all. First Draft uses GPT-4, so it can do pretty much anything that you can do over there. Let me go back down to First Draft, paste that in, and see if it'll listen to me. Okay, it is not listening. Network error, it keeps telling me.
How many words is there too many words, or is it close to 500 or 600?
Shouldn't be. Let's see. 931.
Maybe it's too big. Have you put that many in before?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can use a lot of words in First Draft. We're not limited to the 500.
Let's see how many, because this one worked. Let's see how many this one was. This one was 641. Well, let's experiment with that real quick. I'm just going to take a chunk out. One more time before I remove the chunk here. The last two paragraphs and it works, so there might be like maybe a 650, 700 word limit. We need to verify that. It used to be you could put a whole bunch of words in there, but people would put outlines and style instructions, all kind of stuff. But this is just a good way to get started with short stories, in my opinion. All right, so that gave us just over 1,000 words. And you could see each one auto titles. I could change this if I want to change the name of the chapter or something. I could change it right here, or I could come over here and click rename. But now let's say I want to work on here and I don't want to bring it into Story Bible. Well, I could start, let's see. I could start using all the little laser tools. So I want to know more about what this diary looks like. I'm going to hit that describe button. For describe, toggle any of these off that you don't want to use. If I don't want to know what the diary tastes like, I could just toggle that off and save my credits. Just remember to toggle it back on if you do. I would have thought everything tastes like chicken. It's the way it is in the movies, the cartoons, but no. Sometimes I like seeing what it comes up with. All right, so old diary is worn, leather bound, varnish frayed. I like this. I like it. I would pick from here. It looks like I got 3 options. 3 different scents, 3 different site descriptions. So I would pick what I like and I could combine them if I want. And again, I would just put it in here. I like using auto write and guided write. Whenever I have a really good idea of how I want my story or my scene to play out, I will just start typing. And this is a great workflow for those of you who don't want the AI to have that much control. You know, you love your writing style, you're comfortable with doing everything, you just need the occasional help. We're going to pretend I just wrote all of this and I wanted to continue right here. Let's see. Delete this. And I'm just going to have it right from there. Now click this drop down arrow and you'll see the settings right here. Let me get this out of my way. I'm closing out the chat box, y'all. All right, so for your right settings, you can slide this creativity slider. So if I go all the way to the left for least, it's going to stick very closely to my story. John Cresson said when he experimented with this, he also found going all the way to the left drew out the scene, which makes sense because if it's following along with your story, it's not adding in any new ideas. So it needs to focus on what you have already. Versus if you go all the way to the right, it's going to throw in new ideas. If you want it to follow very closely, all the way to the left, if you're open to it throwing in some ideas, just be aware aliens may pop up. Go all the way to the right. And vice versa. He said when it was all the way to the right, you know, it kind of sped through the scene really quick. But I can choose how many cards I want. Whenever I click that auto write, this will tell me I usually have it at 2 and 150 words, but you have these choices right here. and you can also select the model that you want. Key details holds, I think, 75 words, it might be 60. But this is a place where you could put the genre, your writing style, you know, if you wanted that horrifying descriptions, jump scares, first person, third person, whatever, you could put that here. I like to use key details when I need transition scenes. When I'm doing my edits and I think, okay, this needs a transition scene, I will copy my 2 scenes here into the document area. And in key details, I will say, hey, this just happened. This is what's going on now. This is what needs to happen. And it does a really good job of helping me combine everything. So I got my card set. And again, my cursor is down here. We're pretending I wrote all of this. This is how you work with write and auto write and guided write. I'm going to pretend I wrote all this. And I'm just going to click the write button right here. But if I wanted to do guided write, maybe I need to change up the direction of the story. You know, the friends have been at a party having fun. It might keep dragging on that party, and I'm decide, okay, somebody needs to leave now. So I can go into guided write. I can ask it for suggestions, or I could say, hey, you know, so-and-so decides it's time to leave the party, or the cops show up, whatever you want it to do. So that's the difference between auto write and guided write. Auto is just going to read back 1,000 words, and then it's going to continue in your style, in your voice. It's going to continue with that story versus guided write. You know, if you need some little changes, in my opinion, it's best for that. Oh, and it only gave us like a sentence. So apparently it's decided this story is done, but normally it would fill up this card with my limit or very close to it. I actually like this though. In this short story, depending on how short I wanted it, because this is just under 1,000, that's obviously very short. I like to do collections of like 12 short stories for some of my books. I typically make them around 3,000 words, but once I would go through this, edit it, turn it into my voice, doing the describe, the rewrites, making all of these little changes that I want to change, I would get very close to what I wanted in the end. Yes, sir, Tomas.
Hey, somebody was asking about, is there an explanation of the credit system you were talking about a while ago? Where would let's see, I was talking about Discord. Does everyone know how to get into Discord? Because otherwise I don't think there is a straight up link to the credit system.
Okay, so to get to Discord, y'all, the question mark up here at the top right, click that, and there'll be a link to join our Discord. And let me pull it up on here for you real quick. And if you go to the Sudowrite Discord, there's, oops, this is spicy. Let me get out of that. There's all these channels here, tips and tricks, the help channel. We also have a course videos channel right here. The community hangout where they talked about the credit switch is somewhere in here. You'd have to scroll through to see. It's one of those things that typically we just talk about occasionally when people have questions. Let me look. I did do a video. Let me double check, because I don't remember exactly what the topic was. Okay, so I do have a video here, but I don't think I went over. I'll share it just in case.
It
It's a very
changes.
short videos anyway.
You know, it depends on, Sudowrite doesn't set that. Sudowrite more or less has to deal with it. So that's why they can't really put a set link in, because it's, you know, from week to week as one of the backend models changes, to, you know, the number of the credit ratio will change.
Right. Each of these models here, and you'll see models will generate pros when we go into Story Bible. Each of these charges something else. These are not Sudowrite's models. They don't have control over this. Each of these charges something different. They also charge different on input versus output. Like for OpenAI, I believe their input costs twice as much as output. I could be wrong on that. There's so many numbers in my head when I think about these models that I get things confused. But they do charge differently on output versus input. And each of these charges differently. So Best Pros doesn't charge the same as Most Accurate. Most Accurate is the most expensive. Keep that in mind. That word most, it's the most expensive. It is also the one that follows your directions the most. Credits depend on input and output. And I'll go jump over to Story Bible real quick just to show y'all this. So our synopsis box. Synopsis looks at your brain dump and genre box. In my genre, I could put up to 40 words. So let's say I have 40 words here, maxing it out. I have a maximum amount in brain dump right here of 2,000 words. All of that counts as input when my synopsis generates, and then whatever amount of words synopsis generates counts as the output. Characters box looks at your synopsis. It's not counting the brain dump, style, genre, all of that, just whatever amount of words in here in my synopsis box counts as the input, and then whatever it generates for my characters box counts as the output. And again, I'd like to say, oh, that's going to cost you 5,000 credits. We can't give a number. It just varies on things. How many characters it thinks you need for that story. So play around with it. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I need to conserve my credits then and put as little as possible. If that works for you, great. But keep in mind, you may be hindering yourself. Trying to put a little bit, especially when people get to like the chapter generator in Beatsbox and trying to generate prose, they want to put just a little bit. You may end up costing yourself more credits because you might need to rerun several times just to get all that information you need versus if you'd just put all the information in the first round. There is no set, again, the models change so much, y'all. You would have to play around with the LLMs more to really understand how that works. But going over these real quick. So best prose is Anthropic. Anthropic decides what its input costs and what its output costs. Most accurate, fastest, and GPT-4 Turbo or OpenAI. Well, guess what? OpenAI's costs aren't the same for all of those models. Fastest charges differently for input and output. Turbo charges differently. They also change their models. So as they release new ones, the prices get changed. They might drop some other prices. Sometimes these models get put on sale, for lack of a better word. So it's very hard. It's pretty much downright impossible for a document to be kept by Sudowrite. Somebody would have to devote their full-time job to keeping that updated up to the minute. Your best bet, if you really want to know what it's costing, go to the LLMs directly. But still keep in mind, things are going to vary based on input, output per model. I know that's not what y'all want to hear. Y'all want something straightforward. It's just really not possible because in the end, also remember, Sudowrite needs to make money. Otherwise, they can't keep this program running for us. So there's also, whatever they need to cover their costs and expenses for everything. So it's still not just a flat rate of, oh, if OpenAI charges this, then I know I should be getting charged this in Sudowrite. Doesn't work that way. I hope that answers, like I know it's not a perfect answer, perfect response. But just remember, input and output is how you get charged for credits. And again, I can go to this recent credit activity and it'll show me what I've spent so far. So for best prose, doing my auto write, that's what I spent in credits, describe, all of these little things. So you can
Check out
see
the
that.
value on
What's
your
that?
short story. I was going to say, check out the value on your short story outline plugin.
Yeah, it's pretty low, huh? It's not bad at all. 108 credits and 124 to get my story started. All right, let's dive into some other stuff. If y'all still have questions about credits, if somebody needs to explain it better, please feel free to ask it in the Discord, and hopefully somebody else can make better sense of it for you. All right, so I showed y'all how to do that, showed y'all how to use the laser tools on the output to start expanding stuff. So let's do some other things with first draft. So if you're a nonfiction author, we can go into first draft. Again, make that new document. And I'm going to tell it, write an outline for a nonfiction book about let's see if it'll do that. It might say, as an open, oh, okay. I love messing with the AI like this. Yes, no, the important thing is just to write our stories. Y'all don't get hung up on the credits thing, especially if for new users. if you go into the mindset, I need to save my credits while I learn this, it's going to take you longer to learn it, and somebody can contradict or back it up. But I find the best mentality to go into Sudowrite with whenever you start is burn through those credits and experiment. Don't think by the end of that first month you're going to come out with a novel. You aren't, unless you're just like a genius with this technology. That first month is strictly all about learning everything. All right, so it gave us our outline for a nonfiction book on getting away with murder, the power of motive, okay? Choosing the right location. Some part of me thinks the AI misinterpreted something.
It's kind of an interesting outline. It's kind of forcing you to make decision.
The art of lying, okay. Strategies for
I like this
silencing
thing.
or manipulating witnesses.
Can you send this thing through Discord or something? I really like this. It's step by step on how to build your story.
I will. That would be good for like mystery authors. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. I'll get it to you. Okay, so it gave me my outline. Of course, I would go through, edit it to my liking, and then let's say I'm ready to start writing one. And I have the prompts that I used right here. So write an outline for the nonfiction book about whatever topic. And now we're going to use the same thing right here. So let's pick choosing the right method. I mean, I like that one for some reason. I'm just going to copy this. New document, always a new blank document for first draft. Yeah, I swear I'm like not some kind of psycho either that's planning murders. Nobody's made me that mad recently. All right, so I have the section copy that I want to focus on. So I'm just going to come over here and tell it. Let me put my bracket. I don't remember what chapter number it was. That's a good thing to keep in mind. I'm just going to say for chapter 3. Actually, you know what? Before I erase this, I want to explain. So again, for you nonfiction people, this is how I used to prompt it. I would remind it what my nonfiction book was about. I did recently discover this was causing a lot of repeats because the AI first focuses on this and then it goes into my chapter. So I actually need to delete that. Write chapter 3 for a nonfiction book. And I'm just going to keep it with that focus on that chapter. There we go. So write chapter 3 for a nonfiction book, focusing on executing the murder, choosing the right method, all that. Play around with the prompting, see what works better for you. I have by no means nailed this down. I still play around with it. But now I have my chapter written. So I have my nonfiction outline and I have the first chapter here. Now, when I'm doing my nonfiction, I like to start out this way. And once it's done generating here in first draft, I like to use the expand. So I'll show y'all that real quick. If not done correctly, stabbing may not result in death and can cause pain and suffering. Yes, ma'am.
Can you show them how to change the title in a document? So because the document become a title and it's very hard sometimes to follow our own workflow.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Once it's generated here, I will read through it, and I usually like to expand the sections. So this might, yeah, this is too much for expand. But typically I will like to expand these once within Sudowrite, and then I just take it and start doing my own work from there on everything. But that helps me build a nonfiction book very quickly so that I have everything done essentially in one day, and then from that point on, it's me tailoring it to my liking and adding in all the details and things that I want. And I prefer first drafts output of nonfiction works versus something like ChatGPT. There's something about it I can't really put into words. Obviously, other than maybe ChatGPT probably wouldn't want to tell me how to get away with murder. But to me, first draft really just outputs in a better tone that I like for my nonfiction books. So Manon mentioned changing the titles. Again, I could do it up here. Click out of it. If you hit enter, it's just going to go to another line unless they fix that. They might have fixed that. But I changed it here and it changed it over here. Let's say I want to change this one. So again, it doesn't matter which place I change it. So there you go. All right, any questions on first draft before we move into Brainstorm? Brainstorm is really fun, y'all, especially just in my opinion for lit RPG authors. It can do so many things. If you have some credits to burn at the end of the month, if they're not rolling over, I highly suggest going into Brainstorm and just playing around with things or playing around in your Beats box. But this is a fun one where you can do all kinds of things. You'll see the different boxes here. It does not matter which box you click into. If I click into places, you see it asks for the box to give you a list of what do you want, context, and examples. If I go into the dialogue, same thing, list of, context, examples. It doesn't matter which box you use. I can ask for names right here in this world building thing. I can ask for magical objects right here in the names, or mix and match. The only difference is why there's different boxes is to pre-fill it with examples for you. If okay, I want to ask for dialogue, I don't know how to ask for it, click into that dialogue box, it gives you some examples. If I want to ask for plot points, I don't know how to word it, click into that plot points right here and it gives you ideas for how you can word things. So again, it doesn't matter which one you go into. And then something else is blank for you to start. What did I have here? I wanted to make sure I do the same things. So what are some dark lessons that a fable can have? And I can just leave it at that if I want, or I can give it some context. I want German folk tales, I think. That has the normally morbid stuff. I think so.
Yeah, with the Grimm.
Yeah. I just don't want what are some dark lessons that a fable can have? I know I want to do these types of short stories, but I need some new ideas to come up with, for the morality and everything.
When did we realize that the Brainstorm, no matter which box we're using, you can ask the same question and they'll give?
I kind of always knew that. But remember, I had to do research for my book too, so I had to dive
So
into
no matter if you go in city or character, it's like a ChatGPT and you can ask anything in any of the box.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. It's just their
Cool.
pre-filled for stuff. And I did verify this with the team. I believe Ryan verified it for me.
That would be easier to teach.
What's that?
That would be easier to teach that way.
I did recently learn about this edit box though. I don't know if this is actually something recently new, but I actually never knew about this edit box, and I think Monique showed it, or Miss Lynn, one of those. So
which one?
If I want to change something up, what I gave it, I could just click that edit box. All right, so this is the list that it gives me. If I click thumbs down or thumbs up, a new card is going to come up. Doesn't matter which thumbs I do. Thumbs up is going to save it. Thumbs down is going to get rid of it, but a new box will always replace the one that I got rid of. So keep that in mind because that does use credits. So it used credits to generate these. Now let me go through real quick. Let's see. Dangers of Greed. That's always a good one. I don't like that one. So now I saved one and I got rid of one. It still gave me 2 new cards to replace each of those. And I got charged credits for that. So if you sit here for like 30 minutes, you can go through some credits and we'll see what this cost us after we go through a bit. Let's see. Ooh, I like that. That one went thorough. And one more. All right, so you can see it just kept that list going. Now it's getting good and I don't want to stop. All right. So, but when I do have all of these over here and I'm ready, I can just save and exit. And now if I click on this brainstorm box that popped up, it gives all the ones I saved. If y'all go into focus mode, so focus mode, I can get rid of all this. Don't forget about that box. So if you're doing stuff and you're like, oh, I don't see my cards, remember to bring that box back, that sidebar. What other ideas do I have? I can't think now because I spent all night doing that, thinking of this. All right, so let's do some fantasy stuff. Back into Brainstorm. And again, I could click into whichever ones I want. I would just need to erase them. But examples, if you have them, I typically delete them because I don't have any. Oh, but I did find this is especially good for dialogue. If you know you want something specific with how your character is going to talk, put that in here. Come up with at least one good line of dialogue that just feels like nails that character. It does so much better. Let's do an epic fantasy novel. Names for worlds, towns, or continents. Let's see what it gives us. Eldoria, hasn't that been done quite a bit? No way. It gave us Azeroth?
Yes.
I'm saving that. Ooh, I like that too. Need to do the Azeroth one now. World of Warcraft reference for those who don't know. Thank you, Tomas. All right, let's do this one. I wanted to see what it could come up with this for sure. Something else. Dark witty note, a serial killer would lead to tease a detective. So this would be great. You're writing that mystery and you want your killer to be doing these types of things, but you don't have ideas for it. You don't want to waste your credits, or you can't figure out how to prompt it inside Story Bible to give you this kind of thing. Come over here. Let's see. Series of murders. I'm just gonna leave it like that. There was a story premise I was working on the other day, and the killer was leaving messages and they were getting like increasingly personal, where it knew all these things about the detective. If I had that in mind, I would put that information here. Detective is trying to solve a series of murders and the killer keeps leaving notes or clues behind that are increasingly personal to the detective. I think the limit here is 65 again, so that is not a Horde reference. That was strictly Warcraft. The next one is going to be a real blast. Oh, that would be awesome, especially if they were, the serial killer was blowing people up. Ooh, I like these. Don't like this. This is an example of, I like half of it, don't like the rest. So I would just save that just to keep it. Make sure, if you can't find first draft, make sure you're in a new document. Again, if I go to this plugins, because I have stuff in this document, first draft is not going to be in this list. You see first draft is right here, usually. It is not. If I click that new document, now I go into plugins. First draft is right here. It's the first one in the list under the plugins. Again, all of these are not actually plugins. They're just in that menu. We are asking them to move that just so we don't have to constantly scroll down so much once you start adding plugins. But always have that blank document. All right, I'm going to go ahead and skip this one. Y'all can play around with it. I did want to compare first draft and Brainstorm real quick for y'all. If I go into Brainstorm, I'm going to put ways to dispose of a dead body. Burial at sea. Ways, let's do. Let's do that. There we go, much better. I had to be specific with it. Ways for a serial killer to dispose of a dead body. All right, I'm just going to save all these to have a comparison. Save these, and now I'm going to put the same thing inside first draft. I like to put my instructions here in first draft. It's habit. I can't tell you honestly if it makes a difference versus, just putting stuff in, but I do suggest getting in the habit, if it's instructions to the AI, put it in square brackets or parentheses. It doesn't matter what the symbol actually is, but I do recommend separating your instructions from actual prose or story details. Brainstorm. Now, right away, you can see, of course, first draft. My sparkles are stuck. Why are my sparkles stuck? Of course, in Brainstorm, we have these smaller outputs, but first draft is going to give us all these details. Let me go here while it's doing. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. I did want to show y'all doing a short story inside Story Bible, but we will get to that tomorrow. So unless people kind of want to hang around for an extra 30 minutes. I know my co-host may need to hop off though. But if y'all want to hang around for 30 minutes, let's do a vote in chat. Yes, hang around. No, y'all want to call it quits. Oh, it's going. I forgot to give it a numbered list. I just told it give me a list in first draft, so y'all be careful with that. Tell it, I want 10 ideas or something like that. And if y'all can't stick around, this is recorded, so it will be up in the Discord course videos channel. And then, like I said, tomorrow in the 201, we will start a new story. And then for the 201 and 301 the next day, we will stay working in that story to show you all of the boxes inside Story Bible. And we might bounce around, come back to Brainstorm our first draft for ideas as we progress in our story. And it is just going.
It is into murder.
What does it say about me that I just don't want to stop because I want to know what it's going to come up with?
I think you're going to set a record. You're coming up on 2,000.
While this is going, I'll be right back. Let me let my dog out, y'all.
For the one who has to go, don't worry about it. The recording will be continuing, and then you can catch up as soon as it's been put up on Discord, which normally take about 1 or 2 days, or when we're lucky, the same day. But I invite everyone to come back tomorrow for a follow-up, because we always do the 101, 201, and 301 on a 3-day basis. That give you time at night to try to practice and get some question for the next day.
Alrighty, so it gave us 41 and it cut off. So 2,500 words. I think I may have gotten 2,800 before, but this is good. Silo, false grade. I wish it had finished that one. I wonder if I can use, here we go.
There is also a plugin, it's called What Comes Next, or Tell Me What Comes After.
Just use the right and it's going. Oh, I forgot I had 2 cards. So the right one will keep going for y'all. Good to know. Okay, well, concrete slab, all this. So I think first draft is the clear winner versus Brainstorm. Where was our Brainstorm card at?
Can you show the difference in credit costs?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Just want to look real quick. Dismember the body, scatter parts and stuff. This would be so me. I would definitely do that, especially here in Louisiana. All right, so these are good, but let's see, did acid bath. So yes, that was about the same. Feeding the animals. So Brainstorm didn't come up with that, which is always a go-to, feeding them to pigs. So yeah, I do like first drafts better. Let's see. Recent activity. So the Brainstorm, remember this is per card, I believe. I could be wrong on that. I actually need to, I'm going to copy that and verify. But I believe that is per card. So however many cards I would generate, times each of this. And then first draft for all of these words, 1,400. And then I had Best Pro selected, which of course is one of the expensive models. So that costs a lot more. But for 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, and that costs 1,400 credits to get. Let's get a short story started. Story Bible is typically toggled off. If y'all want to go into Story Bible, turn it on. And now you have the boxes. I am going to use First Draft one more time to get my story ideas. I know I want to do a horror. Y'all good with horror? Like I said, I feel like killing people fictionally. Put this down. There we go. I could just tell it, hey, give me 12 horror short stories or, romance storylines, whatever I want right here. But it's also good if you have some ideas that you know you want to include to go ahead and specify that. Oh, I like that first one. But how's it their flesh though? Okay, so that's the writer kicking in. Like I would have to, it can't be their own flesh. I mean, they would know. People who bought a painting start to die. We have any arachnophobia people here? Man wakes up in a strange place covered in a thick spider's web. Eventually captured and cocooned in web. Oh, that's very The Mist sounding, like how The Mist should have ended. All right, so when I'm doing my short stories, obviously, again, I would go through this, edit to my liking, but I'm not going to copy it. And I'm going to just put this in the brain dump. So this is the way I like to have it. Once I know, okay, this is definitely how my little premise is going to be. Again, make the changes. And then as I do each one, I will just type in all caps so I can see it done. So I know that one's taken care of. And this is how I like to do my collections. I want to do this one, but we do need to change. Can't be their own flesh. What I like to do is just copy this. When I'm doing my short stories, I don't mess with the synopsis box. Let me see how many lines. So this is too much for me to put in synopsis to generate. And again, I don't want synopsis to generate on its own because it's just not going to work the way I want. I can 700 and synopsis 800. So we're only over by a few words in synopsis, which means I can cut down 7 words. So I'm going to do that. Hyphen is useful like in style or genre box. If you need just a couple more words to get into, to fit everything in. So the hyphen makes everything.
I think if
count
you
as one
delete
word.
the numbers, it'll drop below 800.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I think if you delete the numbers, like number 3, curse game, number 4.
Oh, yep. Good call. Thank you.
Do you want to answer Shirley's question?
What is the question?
She's asking if it's better. Do you think it's better to use Brainstorm for story idea is better than OpenAI?
Remember, Sudowrite uses OpenAI for the majority of its boxes. So Brainstorm is using, I don't know which model of OpenAI, but it is using a version of it. So it's roughly the same. The good thing about using it here in Sudowrite is that, again, I don't know if OpenAI is going to be willing to tell me ways to get away with a murder. So that's like why it's good for using First Draft and Sudowrite, even though it's GPT-4, which is OpenAI. I know it's likely to say, you know what, can't do that, but play around with them and see what you like. I do find it's nice to be able to jump into there as I'm working in my story. Like for this instance, if I'm working on this story and I was like, oh, she's got a mysterious present. Well, let me jump over to Brainstorm and I could copy some of this information into Brainstorm right there and say, hey, give me some ideas for what the mysterious present can be. Oh, it's a beautiful necklace. But things like that, just as I get an idea while I'm working my story, I don't need to go somewhere else and I can just hop over right here inside Sudowrite. Okay, this is how I like to do it. All of those story premise ideas were copied into brain dump. I do not generate synopsis because I don't want it it has this tendency to want to combine them. And also because I already essentially have everything the way I need it, because again, I would have edited this in Braindump to be to my liking. There's no reason for me to waste those credits on generating a synopsis when I can just copy those same stories over right here. I'm just going to let's do third person. Let me get some ideas here.
Do you want to show them how to find their style with their own writing at the same time?
Not right now. Okay, so characters, since I'm probably going to skip over this, I'll go ahead and do it. Characters, I like all of my short stories, and you see I have 12 here. I like all of my short stories to have at least, I had to have different people, so that's at least 2 new characters per story. That's 24 characters total. Currently, the character box cannot support all that. So generating characters here, it's just going to constantly pull from this collection of characters. What I would actually do is have all of the characters that I want in my story, whether it's, generated here and then copying it over into a document, but I would copy these characters out of the character box and then only paste in the ones that I want for that story. So before I actually start writing my story, I know which characters I want for this story, which characters I want for this one. I know my characters for all of these stories. They will be copied into a document somewhere. And then typically I will just paste them in as needed. But if I didn't have any ideas, needed some help, generating characters is a great start. And this, we're doing the story that has a group of friends, so I can actually make this work anyways. That's done. I'm going to generate outline. I typically use novel outline. To use novel outline, you need to have something in your genre, which I do. And then there are these here as well, which we can go over in tomorrow's class. But I'm just going to use novel outline. Sometimes it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, but ideally it should still pull in each story separately like it's listed inside my synopsis box. But occasionally it likes to intertwine them, so it has this all-encompassing story plus all of these little stories inside. Yeah, and that's what it's doing now. I'm going to cancel that. And I'm just going to copy my synopsis box. Oh, that was the characters. I'm just going to copy my synopsis box and paste that in. I cannot leave it like this. I have to have Act 1, and then each chapter needs to have a chapter, number, and a colon. These are requirements. You must have Act 1. That's what says, okay, here's the start of the outline. If I have chapters, so we know there's 2 stories, right? Or 12 stories total. If I had 2 of them, I was editing and had them above the Act 1 while I was editing before I copied them back in, and I forgot to put them back in place. When I come to the menu after everything's set up, it's not going to recognize those chapters that are before the Act 1. That's why it's important to have that. And then again, each chapter needs to have a chapter number by it. Doesn't matter if it's on the same line like that or this format, doesn't matter. Again, all that counts is having this and chapter 1. If I look at this add new, it only recognizes 2 chapters because these others do not have chapter numbers. And if I go to generate the chapter 2, let me show you what it's going to look like. Because I didn't separate those others with the chapter numbers, it now thinks chapter 2 is all of that. That's why formatting your outline is important. Now, as I will show y'all in the next couple of classes, you can format this all kinds of different ways. But again, we're just working on the short story. So I'm going to stick with this one. I want to remind it that this is going to have a tragic ending. Because the AI does like to be positive and it always wants to give characters that way out. This is something I routinely have to repeat. It's a good chance whenever I generate those beats, it still isn't going to, do it correctly. But now I have my chapter 1 set up. generate the beats for it. And we'll see just my instructions. I like to do this a lot for various chapter summaries, not just my short stories. Generate the beats. And let me see if I got anything good for, copy that one. This is my beat header. If you hear somebody say beat header, that's what this is. And it can vary if it's writing styles, story details, different things. In this case, it's a header I've worked on recently, and yes, y'all will eventually have access to this document. I'm still finalizing, organizing it because I created the document and yet I have trouble finding things in it. I know it's a mess to try to give out to y'all. But anyways, these headers right here have done a really good job lately of just making my prose flow a lot better. I do actually want to play around with using this in that instruction, kind of like right here. I think it will work very well for making the beats flow better as well. That's an experiment I still need to do. All right, so this is a short story. I've told it how I want. In with the aftermath. Leaving a sense of, no, I'm just going to say in with the aftermath. A group of friends all dying. So I'm just guiding it here with my header. There is a good chance this actually might trigger some looping. We'll see. Once you've generated your beats, go through everything. But the first thing I like to do if I'm doing a short story like this, I always go and make sure that my last beats, especially if I'm trying to do that tragic ending, I'm going to make sure that the AI didn't change that up on me. The chapter concludes with the last guest taking their final breath. I like this wording better than mine with my header. I'm going to copy that. I like that. These are pretty good. If you click this check beats button, this shows you this is my header and this starts the beats. Oops. But beats don't care about numbers. I can have number 5 right here. Number 11, keep that as number 3. And if I go down to check beats again, it's in order. The only things you have to worry about is, I don't know, that's got to be a bug or something that it keeps doing that. The only thing that matters is having a number right here to separate. And of course, I want to put it as 1 just because that makes sense. But it really doesn't matter what number it is. But you have to have a number here separating your beat header from your beats. And since we just saw that it doesn't care about the numbers, doesn't see what those numbers are, it looks at the carriage returns. If I were to combine this, the AI is now going to see that as 1 beat versus 2 beats like it originally was. If I have that carriage return, it's fine. I don't even need numbers in front of all these other beats. Again, this is the important number to separate header from beats. If you have looping in your beats, we'll go over that a lot more tomorrow, but that is typically from this, your beats here not asking for enough. If you're doing a short story, you typically do not have that issue though, especially if you're doing your entire story premise in 1 chapter. So I think this is actually going to be pretty good unless my header throws it off from that last line. I am going to do, I'll do the 2 that I like to combine. I like to combine fastest and Ouroboros. Oh, I need to do my style. 3rd person past tense. I want to make sure I amp up the, whatchamacallit, like the gore factor and everything. So I am going to take my story premise and run another plugin real quick. You can get rid of this box if you don't need it and you just want to work into the chapter. If you're ever trying to select, hey, the box is gone or the beats are gone, I can't find them, just click this typewriter icon right there. Clicking that turns it on and off. I'm going to do this and run a plugin. I want more ideas for my style.
Hey, Nicole,
Yes, sir.
if I put a bunch of really cool stuff in my brain dump, like world building stuff, is prose going to read that?
The prose pulls from beats, but the beats are going to read it. It will, it's like a domino effect. Everything's going to trickle down essentially into prose. This is the best way to look at it. That's why it's important to keep all of your boxes in sync. If you change a name, make sure it's changed everywhere. Yeah, a lot of people like to change up the brain dump box. Once they've got their synopsis and outline and all that generated, they'll go back and change up their brain dump box to be room for extra characters, some settings, the lore, all that kind of stuff. Because yeah, it does trickle down into everything. So it's very useful to play with. All right, so this gave me some ideas for my genre and style box. Ooh, I like the tropes. Dinner party from hell. I like that. Dinner party from hell. Dialogue. Just want to look up real quick. I like this. That all might not fit. Let's see. Perfect. And honestly, I actually should have perfected my style before I generated the beats, because the beats do read from the style box. All right, but now that I have my style, I'm going to generate with, oops, no, I wanted fastest. And that one goes really fast, so I'm just gonna let it go. Okay, well, it went to suspicious right away, so that's something I would need to work on. Let's just see how spoilery it goes. Okay, yeah, I don't like this at all. But it could be because I didn't edit my beats to the liking. But I don't like how it just dives into revealing, hey, it's human flesh and everything. But I'm going to do another one. Play around with the models. I highly recommend doing a stride. A stride is 2 beats. So 1 beat, 2 beats, 1 stride. So I highly recommend running a stride without any beat header or anything in the style box, just to get familiar with the models and how they work without any guidance. And that'll help you kind of pinpoint which ones you really like right off the bat and want to work with. I did Ouroboros this time, and these are 2 that I really like for my short stories. I like to mix and match. We call them kit bashing. That's where I will take all of the output from Ouroboros, all of the output from Fastest, and I will start combining the different sections to make everything read nice and smooth, and then go through it and do my own wording and have everything start going in my voice. And I love Ouroboros, which is the one this one is, just for its narrative style. I find it brings me really into the scene, into the story. Just want to see if this one does the spoilers right away too. Current of tension. And you see it brought in, she was an introvert. So obviously her character description had that in there. Keep in mind, if it's in your character box, it's going to get pulled into prose. Actually, that's a good thing, Tomas. Maybe Brain Dump does pull more heavily, because they say prose only pulls from beats. But unless we had Cassie being an introvert right here.
Can you hover over the interrogation point? Because I think they add something to it. It's not just the beats.
It does beats and characters. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
genre,
Okay, so it is, yeah, it is characters, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, it's not pulling from the brain dump. I thought maybe it would, but yeah, I forgot it does pull from characters heavily, which makes sense. Done, Nicole. Okay, so keep that in mind. As you see, it pulls very heavily from this, especially with this model, it seems. You'll find some of them pull more heavily from the character box than others. So change up your wording in your character box. If you don't want it said, don't have it there. It's just going on to describe everybody. Everybody. Sticking with that current of tension and looping. And then weird tense. All right, let me stop this. This kind of went off the rails. All right, but that is how I do my short story. Now tomorrow in the 201 and the 301, we'll work more heavily on making sure our beats are better, because we didn't make any changes really to the beats. So I'll show y'all how I like to do mine and the different ways you can mess with making them nice and thick and detailed to reduce the looping and everything. Does anybody have any questions on anything? We are at an hour and a half now, so I think that is good for today. The 201 will be at the same time tomorrow and the 301 the same time the next day. So hopefully y'all can join us again and we'll play with another story inside Story Bible. And do y'all have any questions? You're welcome. I am going to stop the recording.